This is the Awaken Life podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Scott Landis. How can you live an absolutely fulfilling and purpose-filled life, maintain a passionate, intimate relationship, all while raising kids and growing multiple streams of income? That's the big question we seek to answer on this podcast by interviewing people who are already doing it. One thing we know for sure, it takes a community to do it well. So thank you for being a part of the Awaken Life community. Looking forward to growing with you. Now on with the episode. Welcome to the Awaken Life podcast with Scott Landis. And today my guest is Deb Curtis. And Deb is somebody that I found on LinkedIn and reached out to because she does work with the SBA Small Business Association, but she has a passion to help women and minorities to become business owners by leveraging the SBA. Now, all of us business owners can leverage the SBA, but that's where her passion is. And I have had a little bit of experience with the SBA, but I really have a huge knowledge gap here. So I'm really happy to have you on the show, Deb. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Scott. Thanks for having me.
So if you're an expert in the Small Business Association and how to use it, I have lots of questions, but before we go there, give me a little background on you, like, where are you from? Where did you grow up? Like, how did you get all the way to where you are now, starting back from like maybe family origin, that kind of stuff?
Yes. I am from Wisconsin, if you can hear my Midwest accent.
I got it. I detect that.
I know. I'm told I pronounce my A-E-I-O-U's, my vowels, very distinctly, and I'm proud of that. I tend to talk fast, so if I do, just slow me down. I think that's just part of the Midwest slang. I love the Midwest. I love the four seasons. It keeps us on our toes. I grew up in a family with married parents. We actually initially lived in the city of Milwaukee, and then my dad, when I was born, wanted to move the family. I was the youngest of three, to a rural area about 35 minutes south of Milwaukee. And my parents got divorced while I was very young, like 8 years old. And I was living with my mom after they divorced, and she got heavily involved into drugs and alcohol, and I was abandoned. I'm going to speed up the process because it was long back then. And then my father eventually got wind of what was going on, and he won custody of me. And from that moment on, my whole life was living with my dad, who worked two jobs, trying to make ends meet. Sure. And because of that, I worked real hard through high school, volunteering for everything because he was gone all the time and I didn't have no one to go home to. So I stayed busy with school, couldn't afford to go to college because my family was poor. And all my friends back then, that was the big deal. What university are you going to go to? What school? Education was key. And I couldn't. So I had to go out and work hard and prove to myself that I don't need an education. Probably do, because everyone says I should. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to work hard and see what happens. So the first career job of mine was with a finance company. I worked there in total for 18 years. So I tell people I didn't go to school and inherit student loans. I worked for 18 years at a finance company and learned a lot. I was the first female promoted branch manager in that company, and I had to fight for it. Working for a finance company, we approved secondary auto loans. And when I say secondary, it's people that maybe had some credit challenges in the past and couldn't get approved at the traditional bank. So we approved those auto loans, put them on the books, and then most often they fell behind on payments. So we had
to collect. Higher risk. Yeah.
Higher risk. You got it. And Scott, after several attempts of collecting, if they didn't pay, we would get judgment. And
Mhm.
the branch managers and their assistant managers would go out and repossess the cars. We didn't
Oh,
hire,
wow.
yeah, we didn't hire repo companies, and
Wow.
they wouldn't promote women because they said women couldn't handle repossessing cars. Even though I was an assistant manager and
Uh-huh.
went with my manager to go find the car, we didn't have cell phones back then either. I had to have change in the car,
Ah.
right? To go to the payphone, call my tow
Mhm.
truck guy. And so I pushed hard and they decided to put me on a probationary period to promote me. I
Mhm.
didn't get paid anything more, Scott. I was the first female trying to prove that women can do this job. And
Wow.
after 6 months, I was a top performer in comparison to my male peers, and they finally promoted me and I paved the way for women. So,
Wow.
you couldn't do that today. There's no way you could get away with that today. But in a way, it's part of my journey and where I am today, and I'll
Mhm.
continue on. So after 18
Yeah,
years of
that gives
yeah,
great context to where your passions lie, where they came from. That's good stuff.
thanks, Scott. You're following the story here.
I'm tracking, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll try to slow down if I'm talking too fast.
No,
But
you're good. You're good. Keep going.
okay. So after 18 years of that corporate job, and back then, Scott, we were told, my daddy told me, stay loyal to your employer and they'll
Mm.
do anything for you if you stay loyal to them. And listen, they were awesome back then. The benefits, the pay,
Mhm.
we had Christmas dinners, drinks paid, bring your husband, band, dancing. I mean, working for an employer back then was, if I was there for 18 years,
Yeah.
that tells you why. Uh,
Mhm.
so I decided, okay, I've been in this secondary credits career. I wanted to move to the bank side. And now, mind you, I have no college education. So
Mhm.
by the time I got promoted, the people that they promoted had a college education. That was the only way they got there. So I had to,
Mm.
fight tooth and nail and prove that I can get promoted. So then I
Wow.
started working at the banks on the retail side. And then I moved into business banking, business loans.
Mm.
And through the years of my career, the next 10, 15 years, I was introduced to small business lending and
Mm.
conventional loans. And the SBA wasn't part of the picture yet. But
Mhm.
as time progressed, the small businesses that I couldn't do a loan for, I started learning about the SBA as an option that
Mm.
maybe that's a route that they can go. So I started to move to banks and learned how to do SBA lending. Had some great mentors along the way from various banks. I worked for big banks, regional banks, community banks, non-banks, all in SBA lending. And
Mm.
as an SBA lender, Scott, there's different credit requests that business owners can obtain. You can do a startup. Maybe much of your audience, they have been startup entrepreneurs. They
Yep.
have a hobby and interest, and
Mhm.
and I'm grateful for startups because without them, we wouldn't have small businesses today,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
There's also business acquisition lending, which is what I focus on today, and I'll get to that through my journey. There's also debt consolidations for business owners, buy a building, working capital. There's various loan requests in SBA
Mhm.
lending. So I did all that, but I noticed that I was attracted to business acquisition lending, meaning change of business ownership of established profitable businesses. And why I was attracted, when I used to do conventional business loans, I was always taught to ask the business owner, what are your s- succession plans, your exit plans? What are you going to
Mm.
do one day if you either one, have to exit unexpectedly because health took a turn, or two, you want to sell and retire, or just sell and do something different? And
Mhm.
every time I would ask that question of business owners, they didn't have a plan in place. So I was taught to coach business owners how to put these plans in place So in case of an unexpected emergency, the business was set to still operate on its own with the owner off site, right?
Mhm.
So through that, I loved business acquisitions because I knew how to look for the right business listing that's ready to
Mm.
sell for business buyers. And I also learned through the process, kind of like me, not, I didn't get an education, but I realized a lot of those that received a degree or an education, nobody was ever really taught, how do you purchase finance a small business with the SBA, right? How
Right.
many times, Scott, have you heard or saw there's seminars on how to buy a first time home, first time home buyer seminars?
Yeah, a
They're
lot of those.
everywhere,
Mhm.
right? I still think we need to constantly teach that, but where
Sure.
do you see how to buy a first time small business, that's
Right.
established, making money already? And we don't do that. I don't know why. There are seminars, but not enough to
Mhm.
accommodate what's happening.
Well,
So,
that's obviously what sparked an interest for me to reach out to you and just be like, okay, yeah, what you just said is so true.
uh-huh.
I saw your headline and I'm like, oh, wow, this is like immediately, I know this is something that we need. You've articulated it in a way I didn't think about before, but you are that resource. You're the place where people can go to get the first time business buyer seminar or,
Yeah,
or consultant. So yeah,
that's right.
that's great.
I'm one that will just give away information one-on-one because I'm so
Mhm.
passionate about it. Uh,
Mhm.
thank you for seeing that on my LinkedIn. My passion has been business acquisition financing for individuals or people that own a small business today that want to acquire an established profitable business. So tell me this. How often, Scott, have you heard about the baby boomers are retiring? Per the numbers are crazy, right? We
Right.
hear that.
Yeah.
We're living longer. We all know that.
Mhm.
Baby boomers, they don't want to give up their businesses, so they're still running them, but they've reached
Mm.
a point now, especially with the pandemic on the tail end, that
Sure.
tired and they just want to get out. So there is a nickname, and maybe you've heard of this, but there's a nickname about what's happening right now, and it's called the Silver Tsunami.
I
And it
have heard that, but I didn't know that's what it was. Okay.
so the Silver Tsunami is gray haired. Now I'm not a baby boomer, but I do have gray. I do color it, and so do baby boomers. But baby boomers, Silver Tsunami, they're gray hair and they're selling their businesses because they want to retire and get out. They've waited
Mhm.
too long. The pandemic has exhausted them, and we're on the other
Mhm.
side, and the businesses are back on the up and up, and they're doing well, but I'm sure they don't want to face something unknown happening again. So they're
Mm.
all preparing to exit, or they already are exiting. And this is
Mhm.
the trend for the next 5 years.
Mm.
So then think about it.
These are business owners in their like 70s, right?
60s and 70s. Yep.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
got it. So what have we heard like a year ago? The great resignation.
Mm.
Everybody wanted to exit
Mhm.
corporate because
Yeah.
they're tired of not having a say with what they want to do. They're just, the pandemic really burned them out too. So this
Mhm.
silver tsunami is happening. We have all of these people that want to do something else. So my message here is, you don't have to ground up start up a small business. There are businesses on the market today, like a
Mm.
nice home for first
Right.
time small business owners to acquire. And what the beauty of acquiring an established small business brings to an individual, it already has cash flow. It already is
Mhm.
profitable. It's already established. There are seasoned employees working for the business. There's loyal customers. It's
Mhm.
it's kind of like when you go to the grocery store and you don't know what to make for supper and you're just tired, you find a meal kit in the produce section. Here's a pot roast.
Take the easy button.
That's right. That's what it is. Now,
Mhm.
now, is there risk? Of course there is, but is there
Mhm.
risk working for corporate America?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, right.
So now, and I know you have more questions. So my passion is to help educate and move individuals to acquire profitable small businesses in all 50 states. I have the background and the knowledge how to do these transactions. Typically, as we were talking before we started the recording here, typically men are the ones that are small business owners, right? Who were the ones that have been promoted in corporate America over the decades?
Mhm.
Why was it so difficult for me back in the 90s to get
Mhm.
promoted and earn a position that typically men were in, but they just
Right.
didn't think women could handle it? So I went in and paved the way. So yes, I can still help men, and I always will, because I have to have diversity and be fair and equal. But
Mhm.
I have a passion to want to help women as
Right.
well become small business owners through acquisition with the SBA financing, and minorities, African Americans, transitioning veterans. There's so many out there that need me to educate them on how to become a small business owner of
Mhm.
these baby boomer profitable small businesses. The
Right.
cash flow of that business that's been established is what makes the SBA loan payment. And that baby boomer who's exiting,
Mm.
he has a salary today, and that's transferred to the new owner. So I'll leave it there. I threw a lot at you with my fire hose, um, but I just kind of wanted to take you from soup to nuts, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's really good. So real quick, just to fill in something that I always try to assume that any terms need to be defined, or sometimes just like, let's dig into a little bit. And I feel like succession planning is one thing you touched on. As you said, when you were in the banking industry, when you were talking to those clients, a lot of times they didn't have a plan. And coming from the business coaching world, that's something that I definitely had that same experience working with business owners. A lot of times they didn't have a plan for how to exit or how to have the business be succeeded by either the next generation. It could an heir, it could be the employees, or it could be a buyer. You could put the thing on sale. I just wanted to mention real quick for anyone who is listening who maybe is thinking, well, I'm not a silver tsunami person. I'm just in startup. I'm, just trying to get profitable. Anybody who's listening right now on that, the stuff that's required to be ready for succession or to sell your business is also the same stuff that you need to do to have a sustainable business. So either way, whether you end up, selling it in a year from now or 10 years from now or 20 years from now, you want to work towards that. If you want a business that can run without you, it is a business that is attractive to a buyer. So I just want to add that little context for anyone who is like, I want to make sure that they understand that this is applicable to that group as well. Just the things that would be required, because you're going to talk to us about, and maybe that's my question is, there are people who are on the selling side, and they're the Silver Tsunami people, burnt out, and they're going to need to do some things to make that business sellable. To use the house analogy, the house has to have working plumbing and it has to have some basic things, right? If it's a total dilapidated property, nobody's going to want to buy it. And so you're probably able to touch on that. Like what are some of the basic things that somebody needs to do to get their business ready to sell from your
Yeah.
experience?
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that you're familiar with the succession planning and the exit planning. And I'll tell you what some of those great ideas are.
Mhm.
Um, and why it's something that you and I are passionate about. When I used to work at a bank in conventional lending, I had a portfolio of small businesses that had loans. And the ones that did not listen to our advice about having some kind of a succession plan in place if something happens to the owner,
Mhm.
when something truly happened to the owner, a heart attack, these are real stories, a death.
Sure.
There's nothing worse than a commercial lender like I was having to work with the widow or
Wow.
the wife of a business owner that's in the hospital for months
Yeah.
to figure out who's going to keep the business floating because
Right.
plan
Or those
wasn't in
loan
place.
payments coming in. Yeah.
Right, right. So that's why I'm passionate about it. Yeah.
Mm.
So that leads me to what are some of the things that are required. And it's similar to buying a home. You need financing. They say keeping your personal credit and your business credit healthy is important, and you
Mhm.
should apply for a line of credit, like a home equity line of credit, if you're a homeowner, or if you're a
Mhm.
business owner, a business line of credit. Have it in place. Even apply when you don't need it, because
Right.
when you need it, right, is when you won't be approved. Or excuse me, when you don't. How am I saying that right? No, when
Mhm.
you need the money, the cash is when the bank won't approve you because
Right.
something's not right. But if
Mhm.
it's in place and you need it, you don't have to apply.
Mhm.
Now, um, the operations of the employees that are in place. If you're the business owner and you're the one doing everything, that's not good,
Mm.
because if
From a
you
buyer's perspective or a
yes.
transaction perspective. Yeah.
Yep. If you're doing it all and you've just got some people doing some help because you're telling them a little bit of this to do and a little bit of that, but you're the
Mhm.
main person that has the relationships with all the clients, you're the
Mhm.
key, you're the reason why that business operates every day. That's not good. You
Yeah.
have to train what we call key employees to
Mm.
have those relationships, to know how to do the operations of the business. You
Mhm.
have to get them to the point where they're running the business, and you basically become what we call semi-absentee or absentee,
Mm.
just overseeing it. And that's the
Mhm.
hardest thing for business owners to do, is to release what they know and teach
Mm.
and trust and verify that the work is being done. That's valuable. That's
Mm.
valuable to the buyer, though, right, Scott?
Sure. Are you a business owner who's looking to sharpen your performance in health, wealth, and relationships? And do you want to take your leadership skills to the next level and grow your business to new heights? If so, I have something special for you. That's right, I'm talking about Awaken Life Academy, the Just Show Up training program designed to help you achieve your full potential as a leader and entrepreneur. Based on a Harvard Business Review study that showed the importance of regular and consistent training during times of economic hardship, our program is tailored to meet the specific needs of business owners like you who want to improve their health, wealth, and relationships while building a successful business, even in hard times. Our expert-led training sessions will provide you with the skills and the mindset needed to succeed in all areas of your life. We'll help you develop a strong leadership style, improve your decision-making skills, boost your confidence as a business owner. You'll also learn how to balance your work and personal life, maintain good health, and build strong relationships with your team, clients, and loved ones. With just one group session a month, you can join our community of like-minded business owners who share your passion for growth and development. Our group training format provides a supportive community where you can collaborate and learn from others, develop the personal discipline you're craving, and the determination to improve every aspect of your life and business. You'll receive ongoing support and guidance from our team of experts and the community, as well as access to exclusive resources and tools to help you achieve your goals. Don't settle for mediocrity. Join the Awaken Life Academy today and start unlocking your full potential as a leader and entrepreneur. To learn more or to register, For the next group session, go to awakenlifeacademy.com. Yeah. I mean, if I tell this to business guys I work with, that, if you can't take a moment away from your business, if you took a week off and the business is going to fall apart, you don't have a business. You just have a glorified job. And if you don't have that business, who's going to want to buy? Nobody wants to buy into something where they're just going to buy a job. Nobody's going to buy a job. So you got to have that. And so semi-absentee, that's a word that I haven't. Is that like an industry standard word that, okay. So good to know. How do I usually think of it as, I usually reference Michael Gerber's, as you're working on the business rather than working in the business.
Yeah. Yep. I've heard that too. That's the
but
same.
semi-absentee, I'm going to adopt that vocabulary because that's a little more official.
Right. And there are ways I coach my buyers that are my clients, my borrowers, because we're seeing more and more today business listings advertised as absentee owned or semi-absentee owned. Well, how do you prove that, Scott? How do you really know? And if you are the buyer and later on you're in conversation with the seller and you ask, when's the last time you took a vacation and where did you go? And they tell you it's been 5 years. I doubt it's absentee.
Yeah, red flag.
Flag up the pole. But another area, and you would agree with this is probably, I would say, in my opinion, the number one reason why most businesses on the market today, 80% of the businesses on the market today won't sell, is because the financials, meaning the IRS filed business tax returns, are not reflecting sufficient net income, otherwise known as profitability, otherwise known as cash flow, to support the buyer's SBA change of ownership loan project. That's it. Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So let's define some terms here. So most business owners that I work with, they are trying to limit their taxable income, and there's things you can do with your business to do that. It would be a poor strategic move to have your taxable income be as high as it possibly could be, because then you're just paying more money to the government. However, the downside of getting really good at limiting your taxable income is you're not showing so much, you said profit, is so define some terms, get a little more clarity on that from our perspective, where we're thinking, I just looking to not pay taxes. So how do we fix that to be an attractive business to buy? Right
on. So every business has revenues, sales. That's the top line on tax returns. That's the top line on P&L statements, profit and loss statements. You'll often hear sellers say, well, I got all these revenues and they're growing every year. We're growing revenues, and they think that's what the value of the business is going to be driven by. No, because revenues don't pay the SBA loan for the buyer. The revenues generate the income less the expenses of the business. Now, the seller, the business owner today, may tell his CPA, I don't want to pay taxes. And this is very common with baby boomers. Listen, my father was a baby boomer. He never was a small business owner, but he didn't want to pay taxes. It's just that generation. And again, I don't know, might be many generations, but nobody wants to pay taxes. But most of us are employed and we have to pay taxes. We all have to pay taxes on our W-2 income. So if you're going to make an income, you got to pay taxes. We all do. And business owners can find ways, working with CPAs, that will advertise, hey, hire me and you won't have to pay taxes. Well, that's easy because you can just expense everything out of the revenues and end up with zero profits. Or what some business owners do when they're very profitable is they'll expense personal stuff out of the business. They'll remodel their home, or they'll put an expense line item on their P&L or their business tax return, management fees. And I'll question, what's this management fee? And then I find out from the business broker representing the listing that the seller is sending money to his Fidelity investment account for retirement, trying to reduce his bottom line, which is the net income, the profitability. Okay. This can be added back to cash flow for loan purposes, case by case, depending upon the bank that's going to approve the loan, and all the proof has to be paper trailed because it's a government loan to the T. So, but then there's some that just don't report anything or everything. They just don't want to report it all and hide from the tax man. That's fine. If you're going to do that and you're not going to pay taxes as a business owner, just don't expect to sell your business for the price that you want, because you can't have your cake over the years eating it by not paying the tax man and then get paid when it's time to sell a full price. It's you can't win twice. You can't win twice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, getting out of paying taxes altogether, I don't think we're talking about that, or I mean, there's some some things that people do that we are not recommending here at all. We do say, do pay your fair share of taxes.
That's right.
And you should keep the business and the personal separate. But strategically, most businesses are looking to limit their tax liability, like you said, by including expenses. And that might not be the best strategy if you're thinking about selling it. So that's sort of the bottom line. Same thing, I'm dealing with this, looking to buy a house. The mortgage lender wants to see some more W-2 income. So I've got to change up how I'm, expensing my business and pay more salary and less owner, forget the term, owner pay in different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when it comes to being an attractive business to buy, having a high level of net income and profitability is going to be what attracts somebody. So we got two things. That one, the other one was being absentee. Like, can the business actually run without you? So was there another one?
Yeah. Diversity of your customers. Yeah. Yep. Let me explain. And we're seeing more of this today too. A lot of online businesses selling their product online. And what I'm starting to see more of, people can sell on Amazon, right? You can sell your product on Amazon. If your revenues are heavily concentrated where Amazon is your only source, or, greater than 50% source of your annual revenues, if Amazon decides to take you out and create a product similar to yours and put you out of business, where is the buyer now going to come up with enough money to make their SBA loan payment? There's risk with that. I think of the story of the ring light for Zooms. I have a light on my face right now for doing this podcast, so you can see me. Maybe it's a little too bright, but so there's a ring light that a small business invented during the pandemic to help us see better on Zooms. And then that business was selling the ring light on Amazon, and it was doing well. And Amazon tracks their wholesalers. What are their numbers and what are they doing? And Amazon came up with their own ring light and underpriced it compared to that small business and put them out.
Right.
So diversification of your customers. So what you should do, it's okay to partner with Amazon, but don't let that be your sole client. You've got website traffic, word of mouth traffic, social media, traffic, advertising in your local community traffic. I mean, you have to really be creative to make sure one of your sources of your overall revenues. If it goes out, you've got enough happening with your other avenues. So
That's good.
diversification can be a struggle. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know, because there are some people, probably even listening now, that they've started an Amazon business, and
Mhm.
it's just, that's maybe red flag. Maybe you might need to figure out some other ways to, because if Amazon can pull the plug. I know people who have started business on social media, and they run all of their business through a Facebook group, and then their Facebook gets turned off and they're out of business. So yeah, these are some good things to think about. Cool. I bet there's more. I bet there's more. If there's anything that you feel like it must be said, let's hear it. But I do want to transition now to, with our time left, that we want to make sure that, okay, somebody out there is like, oh, I've been listening to this podcast for a while, and it's always these people that are like right in the trenches. I never thought about going from corporate to buying a business that's actually already running. And even more amazing than that, the loan that I would get, like, oh, I don't want to get a loan because I don't want to make the payments. But if up front, the business has the money to pay the loan, then wow, this is sounding really good. So let's go into that area now. Like, somebody sitting in a cubicle, maybe questioning their life choices, saying, gosh, is this all there is? I kind of would want to be a business owner, but wow, this entrepreneur stuff sounds so hard. What would you say?
Gosh, I love how you really hit it home there. Yes, you did. So what would I say? If you're that corporate employee and you're feeling stuck, and you've been waiting for that career promotion, and you've been passed over, and you have fire in the belly, you have to have fire in the belly whether you start up a business or you acquire one. Listen, you got to have fire in the belly if you're going to work in sales and corporate, right? You just got to have fire in the belly to keep your job. And so there's risk in corporate, and there's risk in acquiring a business. But as you said, and how you brought it home, Scott, when you acquire a small business, the income historically has to be proven. That bottom line, net income, showing there's enough cash flow to make that corporate employer who wants to exit and buy a business to make his or her loan acquisition loan payment. And there's an officer salary that the seller is earning today, that's expensed and can be transferred to the buyer. And there's still enough net cash flow, net profitability income to make that SBA business acquisition loan payment. That's the difference that people need to get in their head, because I'm afraid what's happening is they're thinking, I can't afford out of my own personal income, and if I quit my job to make this payment. Listen, you can also keep your corporate job and buy a small business if it's a business that is semi-absentee, now that you know what that word is, or absentee owned, and maybe only requires the business owner to look over the key employees, right? The seller did a great job preparing the employees to sell. So some people want to keep their corporate job, and I have funded loans where it made sense. Now it might be a business that the owner is there 40 hours a week. I hope not more, because you don't want to work more hours. You want small business is supposed to give you more freedom, but there are those opportunities too. So I look at it this way and explain it, Scott. It's about the puzzles, the puzzle pieces of the buyer and the puzzle pieces of the seller. And how do I put those puzzle pieces together to put that picture, complete that puzzle so it looks nice and it's working together. That's the beauty of this position, is every transaction has a whole different set of a box of puzzle pieces. It's like, oh boy, but we put them together and it works. So you did hit it home. The business you're buying has to prove it's got the cash by the tax returns to make that SBA change of loan ownership payment. And I think that's the fear that people think that they have to pay. Yeah, you're still responsible. You're personally responsible, because if if there's a bad month and something happens, we want to make sure you've got cash reserves to still make the payment. But I always say, if it's not broke, why fix it? Just transition in and, let's understand what the seller's doing today. If you're good with people and you love managing people, you can do this. You can do this.
I love that. Yeah, because I mean, I'm somebody who wants to encourage entrepreneurship and business ownership. So this is just expanding my mind into the pool of people that might be able to do that, and
Mhm.
having you as a connection in my network now. So there's somebody listening who's saying, "Oh my gosh, this guy this guy at church was saying, I talking to my buddy at church, he's selling a business. I never even thought I'd be a potential buyer for it, but maybe now I can. If I get a hold of Deb, maybe she can walk me through this." So I think that's an obvious one. What I'm curious about is, what if somebody doesn't have connections to somebody selling a business? They don't even know how to do that. Can you help me find the business too? So if I have the business opportunity, I know you can help me there.
Yeah.
Can you help me, because you have so much expertise and background and experience on knowing what to look for. I
Mhm.
might want to do that even if I did have the guy. I want to find
Yeah.
out, well, do you know any opportunities? So how do you do that part?
I love that. And yes, I have a large enough network. I'm primarily on LinkedIn, and I'm approaching 25,000 connections. And in that network are small business owners, business brokers, and all the banks and non-bank lenders. I've been producing this network with this focus in this industry for over the last 5 years. I mean, strong. So therefore, when I work with the client, I help them find the business of their desire, the industry that they have a passion for and experience. We work together. I look at their resume and I want to hear, if you're someone that loves to work with the elderly and you're working at a senior living facility, oh my goodness, there's tons of those out on the market. But if you don't know where to go, I can teach you the simplest things. I was speaking to a buyer yesterday who found a business for sale based on a product that he bought. And he was talking to the owner and he said, "Hey,
Wow.
I love your product. Have you ever thought about selling your business?" And sure enough, the conversation started.
Wow.
Not even
That's a cool
represented by a
story.
broker. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My daddy always told me, you don't know unless you ask. So
Mm-hmm.
always, like your example of the church scenario and
Mm-hmm.
talking to so and so and so and so, you have to
Yeah.
ask,
Yeah.
because if you don't, the answer is going to always be no.
Mm-hmm.
So I help. So thank you for asking that. I've got enough network to put out there and say, hey, is anybody selling this kind of a business? Because I have a
Mm-hmm.
qualified buyer. And boom, they all just
Mm-hmm.
start to get a hold of me. Well, I know this person and I know that
Mm-hmm.
person. And we go to work to find the right one.
That's really cool. Okay, I think this might be my last question. What about I've always thought it'd be cool to get into a franchise. I've heard McDonald's is a great investment. I thought, oh, maybe someday if I save up enough money, if I get into this category of being able to buy a franchise, I could do it. Now that I know you, I'm thinking maybe I could do that sooner than later. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yes. It doesn't have to be just a mom and pop small business that you're acquiring. There
Mm-hmm.
are established, profitable franchise locations that are reselling. And I do those all the time too. And that might be for the individual who likes to have more of a roadmap, for the business, that you follow the
Right.
franchisor rules. And if you need help, we're always there to teach you and train you. That's perfect for that kind of person that wants the roadmap. But if it's somebody that likes a rodeo and kind of to do his or her own thing without having to have certain colors because the franchisor said so,
Mm-hmm.
then you want to look at the mom and pops. So yes, I do finance both.
Cool. All right. All right. So give me a I could say, hey, if you're curious and interested and, have always wanted to buy a business, get a hold of Deb.
Yeah.
We'll say that, go ahead. But tell me, who are you specifically looking for? Like, who would you just love to hear from? Like you said, there's qualified buyers and there's not qualified buyers. So who's like perfect for you, so that if somebody's listening and they're like, well, I kind of like the idea, and then you describe them, they should get a hold of you right away. Who's that person? What do they sound like?
Any individual that's in corporate, or any individual that might even be a business owner today and they just want to get a second business, that's perfectly fine. Qualifications, you must have a fire in the belly. You must like to manage people, because obviously being in business or being a manager in corporate, you got to love people and know how to manage them and lift them. You got to have good credit. I mean, it's just like a first-time home buyer finance. It's a first-time business owner finance. You got to have good personal credit, good character. And of course, just like buying a home, you got to have down payment. When you buy a business, you got to have some cash down payment. So, I'm looking for the people that are, more seasoned, have some cash and experience in management and a passion maybe for an industry. You're a good fit. And typically the down payment is 10% of what the sale price is, plus some working capital. So you got to have some savings and some liquidity. And when your loan closes, we don't want to dry up every dollar out of your personal savings. We want to make sure you got something left as well. So good credit, some savings, some experience, and a fire in the belly.
Okay. So what's the typical, that's a horrible question. What I'm trying to get like a dollar amount, like 10% of what? Give us a ballpark.
Great question. So the SBA 7A is what supports business acquisition transactions. My minimum loan project that I work on starts at 500,000. They can go up to 5 million, but typically, because 10% of 5 million is a lot, as 500,000. That's not what everybody has. Typically, my transactions range from 500,000 to maybe 2.5 million. Sometimes they get big. And here's the deal. It doesn't have to just be one buyer. You could have some partners. You could have a friend of yours. You could know someone else. There could be 3 of you that want to buy the business, so we can structure things that way. But typically 500,000 minimum. Max is 5 million, but my general sizes are max of right around 2.5 million, right around there. Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah. And that's another great idea. Like, don't go it alone. Who do you feel like going into partnership with? Cool. Yeah. Well, Deb, I appreciate your time and being a guest on the Awaken Life podcast. So if you want to get a hold of Deb Curtis, she's actually on LinkedIn, but you want to look for the one that says Deb Jojo Curtis. Based on her middle name, she goes by Deb Jojo Curtis. And so she's easy to find on LinkedIn. And then people can just message you there, or any other instructions there?
Yeah. And on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Deb Jojo, Jojo Curtis is where you can find me. I wear a headband all the time. You can't miss it. If I don't wear a headband, nobody knows who I am. So I got to keep a headband.
You got the persona. You got the whole avatar going.
I know. If you know Rosie the Riveter, she back in the day, she was an activist for female, and this did not come from that, but I love it. People call me the Rosie Riveter of today.
That's good. That's a good association. I like that. Cool. Well, Deb, again, thanks so much. I appreciate your time today.
Oh my, thank you, Scott, and to all your audience. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to the Awaken Life podcast. I've been your host, Scott Landis. Hey, are you feeling overwhelmed and stressed out? It could be that you're out of balance or have a misalignment of your time and priorities. This month at Awaken Life Academy, we're featuring the Total Freedom Life Wheel, designed to help you uncover what might be off balance in your work, life, and other priorities. And then it helps you realign your priorities to your purpose. Check out the full training video and the free download at wheel.awakenedlife.com. That's wheel.awakenedlife.com for free access. Don't put this personal growth opportunity off. Go get it now and start to experience the freedom that balance can bring to your life. Go to wheel.awakenedlife.com.